A guide named Ariane was assigned to lead an expedition team to an abandoned coal mine in Shookham Hills, America, a place whose coordinates were unrecorded on maps or GPS. The coal mine was once operated by a company called Shookham Hills Mining Corporation, founded by a man named Paul Schuttman. The corporation was shut down following a massive underground fire, which triggered a devastating explosion, killing 33 miners and leaving 166 others missing.
Dad!
The explosion's fire was believed to be unstoppable, expected to burn for hundreds of years, leading the government to officially classify the site as an environmental disaster caused by an ongoing coal seam fire. However, the true cause of the catastrophe remained unknown, and no formal investigation was ever conducted. The expedition team, guided by Ariane, was on a mission to uncover the truth behind the disaster, to reveal what truly caused the downfall of Shookham Hills Mining Corporation, a once powerful company in the 1970s that had mysteriously collapsed overnight. Ariane's primary task was to escort the team safely to the mine's location. After a long journey, leaving the highway and navigating through unpaved, uncharted paths, they finally arrived in a small, quiet town near the outskirts of Shookham Hills. Stopping at a local store to gather supplies, Ariane entered and approached the storekeeper. She asked about Shookham Hills, the abandoned mining town, hoping to get directions. However, the storekeeper's reaction was odd. He claimed to have never heard of it, and strongly advised them to turn back and leave. This immediately made Ariane suspicious. Something was being kept from them. However, rather than pushing the conversation further, she decided to thank the storekeeper and leave. As soon as they left, Ariane noticed something disturbing. A car had begun to follow them. Sensing danger, Ariane sped up, creating distance between them and their pursuer, before hiding along a small trail, waiting for the car to overtake them. Once the car passed ahead, she turned back and began tailing it instead, carefully tracking where it was going. The pursuit led them to an unknown trail, eventually revealing a hidden pathway that led straight to a heavily gated entrance, the alternate entrance to Shookham Hills. The gate was reinforced with electrified fencing, an obvious effort to prevent anyone from entering. Determined to continue, the team bypassed the electric fence, pushing deeper into the abandoned town and making their way to the mining complex. As night fell, the group set up camp near the site. Darren and the team gathered to discuss their findings. Based on their research, they theorized that the disaster at Shookham Hills was caused by anthracite gas, which had ignited deep underground, making the fire impossible to extinguish. However, they were still unsure of the full truth, and they had no idea what awaited them beneath the surface. Meanwhile, elsewhere near Shookham Hills, a group of local residents who had been secretly monitoring the area made a chilling discovery. The electrified perimeter fence had been breached. Something had escaped from underground. The sight of the torn open barrier sent a wave of fear through the locals, who knew exactly what this meant. The following morning, Ariane and her expedition team arrived at the sinkhole, the gaping pit that had once been part of the Shookham Hills mine. Darren immediately instructed Terry to set up sensor rods to analyze gas compositions and sound frequencies coming from the depths. The analysis confirmed the presence of pure anthracite gas within the mine, just as Darren had theorized. Excited by the discovery, Darren and his team felt they were on the verge of a major breakthrough. However, Terry noticed something disturbing. As he monitored the frequency readings, he suddenly heard a deep, unnatural noise emanating from inside the sinkhole. The sound was so intense that it almost ruptured his eardrums. Curious and unsettled, Terry attempted to play back the recorded sound, but before he could react, something violently yanked the rope tethered to his waist. In an instant, Terry was dragged into the abyss. The team rushed to save him, but it was too late.
Yeah, fuck!
What happened?
Ariane and Chamie immediately prepared to descend into the sinkhole, determined to rescue their missing teammate. With their gear secured, they rappelled deep into the mine, their flashlights cutting through the suffocating darkness. But when they reached the bottom, Terry was nowhere to be found. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. The air inside the mine was toxic, filled with dangerous fumes, making it impossible for them to stay long. Left with no other choice, Ariane and Jamie retreated back to the surface. Their mission had only just begun, but one thing was clear. They were not alone down there. They left the mine site to search for help. As night fell, the same eerie sound they had heard from inside the mine echoed behind them, following their every step. In the darkness, one of the creatures emerged and snatched Sean. He barely had time to react before being dragged into the shadows. Running for their lives, they tried to escape in the pitch-black night. Moments later, a truck appeared, its headlights cutting through the darkness. The vehicle stopped just in time, and Ariane, Darren, and Jamie were rescued. The truck took them to a hidden outpost, where the people who had been guarding and monitoring Shookham Hills had gathered. At the outpost, Ariane and Darren met Paul Shutman, the founder of Shookham Hills Mining Corporation. It was there that they learned the truth. The terrifying creatures had come from deep underground, surfacing from the mine and attacking the workers and residents. The survivors had fought to contain the creatures, keeping them trapped in the mine for decades. But when Ariane and Darren arrived, they had unknowingly reopened the creatures' escape route. Ariane asked about the origin of the creatures, and Shutman explained that their existence depended on individual beliefs. However, he warned that their release was a consequence of human greed. "They were disturbed because we dug too deep," he said. "We must bear the consequences of our mistakes. Everyone is responsible for their actions." Hearing Shutman's words, Darren finally realized his own mistakes. His greed, the promise of recognition as a professor, and the financial rewards for exposing the environmental disaster of Shookham Hills had blinded him. His plan to sell the discovery to private corporations had led them all into grave danger. Moments later, a distress call came through the radio. The creatures had broken through the mine's outer perimeter and breached the electrified barrier. Shutman immediately ordered his team to prepare for battle. As they planned the defense, Ariane volunteered to join the fight. She partnered with Shelby, one of the outpost's fighters, to block the creature's escape route. Deep inside the mine, they found themselves trapped, pursued by the creatures through the maze-like tunnels. To buy time, Shelby sacrificed herself, drawing the creatures away while Ariane, Darren, and Jamie searched for another way out. But the creatures had the advantage. They used the narrow tunnels to ambush them, and soon Jamie was caught. Ariane and Darren kept running, pushing through tight passages, but it was no use. The creatures caught them both.
Have a little faith. Come and get me, you assholes!
Elsewhere, Shutman's team had successfully contained the creatures, preventing them from escaping the mine. Meanwhile, deep inside the creature's colony, Ariane and Darren were held captive, their bodies weakened as if they had been drugged. Their limbs felt heavy and unresponsive, leaving them unable to resist. Half-conscious, Ariane watched in horror as the creatures offered humans as food to their queen. The creatures were a species that had lived beneath the earth for centuries, multiplying and forming colonies much like ants or bees. They surfaced only to hunt for food, bringing captured humans back to the hive to be devoured by their queen. One by one, the prisoners were dragged before the monstrous queen, who consumed them without hesitation. Despite his weakened state, Darren noticed a grenade nearby. With what little strength he had left, he struggled to push it toward Ariane. Still under the effects of the paralytic venom, Ariane fought against the numbness in her limbs, reaching for the grenade just as a creature grabbed her. Darren created a distraction, giving her the opening she needed. With a final burst of strength, Ariane activated the grenade and hurled it toward the queen, the explosion obliterating the monstrous being. As chaos erupted in the hive, Ariane and Darren made their escape, desperately searching for a way out. They found a rope leading upward and began climbing toward the surface. But just as they neared the top, a creature lunged at Darren, dragging him back down. Ariane kept climbing, struggling against exhaustion. At the top of the shaft, Shutman was waiting, ready to assist. With one final push, Ariane managed to pull herself out of the mine. The creatures that had managed to emerge behind her were immediately greeted by Schuttman's team, who unleashed a barrage of gunfire and flames, burning them alive. With the remaining creatures driven back underground, Ariane was finally safe. Not long after, Ariane chose to stay, joining Schuttman and his team in their ongoing battle to hunt and eliminate the creatures below. And with that, the film ended. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.